So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Morning, everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. We are back again with another little bit of a transfer one. The Duje Caleta-Car, as one of my Croatian mates, I would say a Croatian lad that I know, should I say more so to the fact, who I asked while when I met him this morning how to pronounce the name. Reliably informed me that it's not Duje Caleta-Car, it's Duje Caleta-Car is how you pronounce it apparently. So that's who we're going to be looking at today. Somebody that I have mentioned previously in the in the How to Replace Duje Caleta podcast that we did not so long ago. It was actually, I think it started a week. But there was a couple of things on Twitter recently to say that we have expedited or are looking further in towards signing Caleta-Car. So I said I'd take a little look at him. And at the time, we were discussing different people and different options, I think. And when I do bring up my stats sheet in a moment, I want to bring your attention to something as well, because it turns out that one of the numbers that my statistical where I go to for statistics on FBref had not been updated, and it's a really interesting number, and it's a number that people will be very interested to see because it's a very positive number, and it has gone into a better situation for what this player could bring to Aston Villa Football Club. So let's take a little look at our slides here for Duje Caleta-Car. Yeah, so I think I'm pronouncing that right now. So I'm going to bring up these. You guys have seen these statistics here that I showed previously, the defensive stats, the possession and passing stats. These are the high-level overview statistics that we will look at. What I've also done is I've looked at some of the advanced statistics for him, specifically with regards to passing, and I went into some advanced defensive statistics. But what I want to do is I want to draw your attention here to the aerial duel success. Previously, that was showing at 64.3% for last season. It hadn't been updated in quite some time, and it updated. So I actually I was just checking, and I had a screenshot of his numbers, and then I went back and I checked the screenshot for last season, and it had updated to 73.3%. Now the site does say that some numbers will update at different times to other numbers, so I was delighted when I saw this, because it actually puts him up in the top 92%, the 92nd percentile of all centre halves with regards to head clearances or aerial duel success, should I say, within Europe's top 5 leagues, and that rings more true to me for the simple fact that when I was reading any scouting reports on him previously, or when I was looking at different areas of literature with regards to him, they always referenced that he was really, really good in the air. And I couldn't then when I got the 64% aerial duel success rate, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong. Our highest, the player on our team who is the best aerial duel success rate is Tyrone Mings at 66%. You know, so 64% isn't exactly catastrophic at all. It would have been actually pretty decent. And I couldn't really get it into my head to say, well, everybody else is saying he's really, really good in the air. When I watch him on tape, he's really, really good in the air. But why aren't the statistics bearing this out? And then when I just happened to look back at it again, I'd seen that there was a statistical difference here that showed him at 73.3%. So as I say, that has been updated now. And it's, as I say, it paints him in a better light from that point of view. And it's something that, as I say, we will bring into the discussion here. So, I suppose really what this person brings, or what the Duje Caleta-Car brings to the team, is that he's we'll go back anyway to look at his kind of evolution. Obviously, he's come from RB Salzburg, and they were looking for him to progress through from Salzburg to Leipzig. But at times, sometimes what needs to happen is there needs to be balancing of the books. And they sold Caleta-Car for, I think it was 18 million to Marseille some time ago. And he has gone in there, and he's pretty much performed really well within that structure for Marseille. Obviously he's broken his way into the Croatian national team, and he's a staple there. He's played at big tournaments, so he's somebody that is trusted at international level. He's also trusted in at club level. He's also was part of that team, as we mentioned, that would have that propelled Marseille to a lofty position within Ligue 1 last season, specifically getting him into the Champions League. And when I look at somebody like Caleta-Car, he's becoming more and more appealing to me from the simple fact that the pivot position that we have now with Boubacar Kamara, Caleta-Car and his passing ability and his knowledge of playing with Boubacar Kamara. When you watch him on tape, Kamara was dropping deep to take passes off Char, and the two of them knew how each other played. They knew where they were in the field, and that's really important for that out ball for a centre half. Now, he wasn't the only player that Caleta-Car would look for. It wasn't as if they were like tag team partners in that aspect, whereby it was a case of I have to look for him and pass him the ball. But that simpatico, I think, could be something that's really important, because what this guy brings is he's not going to be a massive tackler. He's not going to just literally throw himself at every ball. He's a stand-up defender. He's very handsy in the box, which is something I don't really like to see from defenders, specifically in the Premier League, because you have no idea what side of the bed referees are going to wake up on, specifically the ones who are looking at VAR at the moment. You've no idea what side of the bed they're going to wake up on. You've no idea whether something's going to be adjudged a push, how handsy you can get. It's very much an objective or subjective type of decision making that's being made. And if you look at any of his highlight reels, he likes to muscle players. He likes to muscle players out of the way. Now, if you play for certain teams, like if you play for Spurs and you're Christian Romero, yeah, you can get away with that. But sometimes when you play with Aston Villa, the slightest hand touch to anybody involves some sort of sanction or retribution or from the referee. So that's just one thing. And it's worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning. He's strong as an ox, and he uses that to his ability. But when he's tackling, so when we look at his tackling numbers, that would explain those numbers, should I say. When we the aerial duel success rate for me is absolutely fantastic. But going back towards the passing attempts is where I think he's going to bring real value here. He's trusted to be a passer out of defense. He's comfortable with the ball in his feet, very comfortable with the ball. We're going to look at it here. Very, very seldomly miscontrols, very, very seldomly dispossessed. And when we look at the types of passes he plays for a centre half, he's statistically he bears out as that archetypal ball playing centre half that could come in and play alongside Mings. And it just so happens he's really good in the air as well. So the more I look into him, the more I can see why we will be linked to him, the more I could see why we will bring him in. And the more I kind of look at him, I kind of say, bring him in. Like if you're, there's people there that are kind of saying, well, we've got Chambers, we've got Konza, we've got Courtney House. I still don't believe Courtney House is going to be here long term, even though he has resumed training and he, Steven Gerrard mentioned in his press conference today that he is going to be back part of the team. He actually name checked him as well. He also name checked the fact that, I won't call it a fact because I don't particularly think it is a fact, but he's also of the opinion, should I say, that Diego Carlos will play some part in this season already. Now, 6 months brings us up to February, 7 months brings us up to March, 8 months brings us up to April. And the season ends on the 28th of May. So potentially there will be some time for Diego Carlos to come back before the end of the season. Personally, I don't we can't wait. We can't hope that that's going to happen in 6 months. So I think we need to bring somebody in. And I think we could do an awful lot worse than bring in Duje Caleta-Car. He's like, when you watch him, he passes the eye test. I have him down here 6'2" on his Wikipedia page. It says 6'4". I wanted to be consistent with the information and take it all from. I wanted to get the most consistent information. So from 2 or 3 different sites, it says he's 6'2". His Wikipedia says he's 6'4". I think he's a bit taller than 6'2". He just looks like he's a taller man. He looks closer to Tyrone Mings' build and height, which for me is nice because I want my Diego Carlos was imposing in one way, is in the fact that he was broad and he was built like a cruiserweight boxer, whereas Caleta-Car he's a more rangier guy. He's kind of built like Piqué in that way, He's kind of built a small bit like that, and it's not just the beard and the fantastic hair that makes me think he looks like Piqué, but it's just his build, his physical makeup. He's not, as I say, and that's another reason why when you look at him on tape, he just looks like he's winning all the headers. He looks like he's winning all the headers that come his way. So I couldn't put two and two together with the aerial duel success rate, but it's not surprising as well, because when you look at him, he's a seriously agile defender. He's one of these defenders that you can see gets around the field, not particularly massively quick, but has good recovery skills in the fact that if somebody gets down the side of him, he's agile, he's able to get turned quickly, and he has those first 2 or 3 steps. He's not going to be an Olympic sprinter, and I don't think you need that as a centre half. Like Tyrone Mings has a long gait and a long stride. Caleta-Car has that, but he's the type of defender that defends the small bit deeper and carries the ball out of defense if he needs to, as opposed to defending with a high line. Although he can defend at a high line, because when you look at some of his tape for Salzburg, once again, within that Red Bull system, they're a massively high pressing team, and some of their centre halves were pressing right up high, kind of like what we mentioned when we were talking about Maxence Lacroix and some other defenders that we mentioned as well, with regards to the fact that they want to go to and get at the ball. So watching him a small bit more over the last few weeks has made me see that he's very comfortable attacking that ball, but he's also very good at defending further back. Making sure that if he does get beat, that he's shorter distances to be able to make up. He's not slow, but he's also not massively quick. Like, he's not an Olympic sprinter either. So I don't have any qualms with regards to that, because he doesn't really get beaten. You see there with regards to dribblers tackled, he tackled 63.2% of all the dribbles that come near him, and he's dribbled past 0.27 times per match, which is up there in the 88th percentile of all defenders in the top 5 leagues in Europe. So it's not an issue that people will leave him flat in his arse and get around him and take a run at him. And if they do, he has an opportunity, or he has good enough skills to get back and to tackle them. It's borne out by the statistics as well as what you see on tape as well. He's kind of no nonsense. He's a bit of a no nonsense defender as well at times. But look, his biggest thing is he's going to be really good at his feet. He's really, really good. He's really good at his feet. He's a steady passer, so his passing statistics are there. He's given a lot of work to pass the ball. His pass completion is high. Like, he doesn't look to me, and this is just from the bits I've done, I've watched of him over the last couple of days. Like, he's not going to, like, he's not Trent Alexander-Arnold type passer of the ball. He's not going to ping 180 yards onto somebody's foot, but he's going to be accurate enough that he's going to hit a player, whether it be high or whether it be low. He's going to hit them in the short and intermediate levels. And his long passing is quite good, but it's not going to be one of these ones, like, he's not going to be able to drop it in a bucket from 80 yards, if that makes sense. But he does love to pass the ball forward. He loves to get that ball forward. He loves to get it, like, he trusts himself to get it forward. So the yin to the yang there with the Tyrone Mings is, we know that Mings likes to go along with the ball. He's been castigated for that previously. This guy likes to go more in the short to intermediate levels and getting the ball forward quickly. And once again, with that pivot with somebody he's used to playing, he's played with for the last 2 or 3 years, they're in that Marseille team of Boubacar Kamara, could be very fruitful for the two of them. So I think that's something that we shouldn't over or underestimate, I suppose, with regards to one of the reasons why bringing somebody in with this skill set into the team could be quite beneficial, because, as we say, us as fans, we want somebody who's good in the air and we want somebody who's good on the ground, and this guy kind of fits that bill, albeit he doesn't have the massive tackle, block, pressure statistics that our other defenders are. But then again, do we all need to have the same defender all over the place? Do we need to have every one of our defenders have the same skill set? And I think that's a no. I think everybody would agree with that. So we've got somebody here in Caleta-Car who's really, really confident in defense. Richard Ryan asks, are we signing him? No, but we've been linked with him, so that's why we're talking with him. And I'm not sure about Caleta-Car. There's definitely better defenders out there. He's not the best defender in the world, but he could be one of the best defenders that comes in for our system. And we have to be realistic here, lads. I've said from day one, 29, and so is like the likes of Greg Evans and those guys that we signed Diego Carlos for 29 million. We're not going to spend 29 million on another defender. We're going to be looking for market inefficiencies and people who've got skill sets who'll be able to come in here and offer us something maybe that we don't have already. This guy is good in the air. He's great in the ground. And as I say, he could be a yin to Tyrone Mings' yang. for a short period of the season. And then who's to say that he doesn't fit a Premier League skill set? But I think I wouldn't be adverse to him coming in here, but yeah, of course, there's better defenders out there than him, and we've kind of highlighted some of them already. But we're going to bring somebody in, and I don't think unless we go out and we bring in, I'm trying to think of a brilliant centre half at the moment, but I'm going blank. Duje Caleta-Car from Bayern Munich, or Jesus, I can't think of top class centre halves at the moment. I've gone completely blank. But unless we bring in someone there, I don't think we're ever going to have consensus on who we bring in. Everybody's going to have to prove themselves. But I suppose looking at his skill set, he does have something that is quite interesting, because composure is something we've been looking at, and composure is something that is looking forward in our defence, and composure is something that he does have. But at international level, you can see it, and at a club level as well. And it's interesting. I mentioned previously that he kind of looks like Gerard Piqué in interviews that I've read on him. He has referenced that he wants to play like Gerard Piqué. From a stature point of view, he looks like him. So if we can get half the quality out of him as Gerard Piqué, we'll be doing well, because that's a lofty ambition to have, to be like Piqué, because Piqué, I think we can all admit, was quite the defender in his time. He's climbed down. I think with a lot of players, one of the things that's going to kind of affect him here is that he has an opportunity to play Champions League with Marseille. And will he leave? I think this is going to be very much a decision of Marseille might want to sell him, and I've seen that Marseille want to sell him to recoup some funds. They've plowed a lot of their money into Alexis Sanchez, and we know that the French league has peaks and troughs with regards to money men, and Marseille, I think, were taken over recently. But I wonder, would they see somebody like Caleta-Car as somebody they could recoup money from? But he is somebody that is in the Champions League at this moment in time, or he finished in Champions League positions with his team, and maybe that might be something that might stop him from actually actively wanting to leave. But I think the Premier League is a draw in itself, and he's been linked to umpteen Premier League teams between. He was linked to Liverpool 2 years ago or 3 years ago. He was linked to West Ham. He's been linked to us earlier this year, and Newcastle as well. So I think the Premier League is a draw in itself. But as we see, we've attracted Boubacar Kamara, and maybe the young man could have a word in his ear and see if he is interested in joining Aston Villa. If this is the person that Steven Gerrard wants to sign. So when we look at the rest of his statistics here, so obviously I've put him up against Duje Caleta-Car here before. So Carlos is definitely better in some areas, but Caleta-Car is better in others, like dribbling, tackling dribblers coming at him and stuff like that. Slightly better in passes blocked and interceptions. I'm not going to laud him for those, because they're down in the bottom quartile of all defenders in the top 5 leagues in Europe. But his aerial success duels and his fouls committed, they're interesting. Also, his passing statistics here. So when we look at him in comparison to Diego Carlos, he brings something different to even Diego Carlos. When Diego Carlos comes back into the team, we do have this guy who stands out with a different skill set to all our other centre halves at the moment. So even from that point of view, I think it might be smart to bring him in. But once again, I do know that we have a pretty stock centre half room at the moment with regards to Konsa and Chambers. But look, there will come a time when one of those players is going to have to move on, or it might even be Mings. Or maybe Diego Carlos doesn't come back. So I think the due diligence that the club are doing, and that they're kind of comfortable that, okay, if we end up in a situation where we've got 5 very good centre halves, we're okay with that, from the simple fact that, that we can't leave ourselves short in that area. And you're probably better off looking at them than looking for them, because when you think of it, Chambers isn't going to be on massive money, albeit he's a really good player. I'm not saying that we force him out of the club or anything, don't get me wrong, but I think the club are going to have a calculation that Diego Carlos slated to come back potentially by the end of the season, as Steven Gerrard says, but we can't leave ourselves short there. And Courtney House is no longer part of the picture, because I think Courtney House wants to go out on loan himself. So bringing him in would be smart. Looking at some of his advanced statistics here, the advanced defense statistics they don't look any better from the point of view that he doesn't do it, like he isn't overworked as a defender. You know, when you look at it here, the defensive tackles in the tackles in the defensive third comes in at the bottom 11 percentile. The midfield third comes in the bottom 25 percentile. In the attacking third, he's never made a tackle in the last 365 days in the attacking third. Same with pressures and ball recovery. So he's a guy who jockeys. He's a guy who holds his position, and he's a guy that holds stands his ground, should I say, with defenders. He's not going to be an interception machine. He's not going to be chasing defenders all around the field. Hasn't done it, should I say, for Marseille. He did do it previously for RB Leipzig, but that was some time ago. So judging at what he's done in Marseille, is he's kind of adapted a kind of a more protect my goals, protect my ground first, and not jump in and do anything stupid kind of mentality. But when he gets the ball at his feet, he's absolutely fantastic, and we can see it there. His pass completion rate overall is 92.1%. In the short area is 97.7%. Pass completion for the mid ranges are 96.3%, and his long range passing is 78.3%. I kind of stay away from long range passing because there's so many different definitions of long range passing from the point of view of what's considered a successful long range pass, just like what's considered a successful cross. But it's important to know that this number would still be a standardized and consistent number from FBref, and it still does put him up in the 84th percentile based on what they judge to be a long pass, and the successful nature of that pass as well, which is interesting. So most of his passes come from live ball passes. So you would expect that from being a centre half. Gets 77.12 passes per game. Of those, ground passes, which are balls that do not leave the ground, make up 66.6% of, 66.6 of those, should I say, he has per game, which puts him in the top 98% of defenders in Europe, in top 5 leagues in Europe. With low passes, which is a pass to a defender, which is under shoulder height, he only makes 3.52 of those per game. And high passes in general, which is over shoulder height, he only makes 9.32 of those per game. So he's somebody who's assured at passing the ball on the ground, trying to split the lines, and he's not really a long ball merchant, is really what I'm getting at with regards to this. When we look at the amount of passing attempts he has in the short range, he usually passes 20 of those 20 passes per game, 20.1 passes per game in the short range, 41.23 passes in the mid-range. So mid-range is anything over 10-yard pass. So he's making most of those passes per game. And then obviously the long passes he's making 16.9 of those per game. He attempts 20 passes on his left foot and 55 passes on his right foot per game. That's what he's averaged out, which, obviously you'll see a bigger discrepancy between the two of those for a lot of defenders who are only comfortable with one foot. While this guy isn't ambidextrous by any means, he's comfortable passing off his left-hand side. Unfortunately, I don't have a breakdown of where those left-footed passes come from, whether they're short, mid, or long range passes, but the fact that he feels comfortable enough to make 20 of those passes, I think every professional footballer should be able to at least make 20 passes with their bad foot per game. But then again, that it isn't as easy as that, even when you are a professional footballer. His total passing distance averages out at 1,620 yards per pass, or per game, should I say. And this is where I'm really impressed with him. So he's very rarely miscontrols the ball when the ball is played to him, and he's very rarely dispossessed in traffic when that does happen, or when the ball is played to him as well. I wanted to bring up the same numbers to see if I could bring up the same numbers for somebody like a Tyrone Mings, because a lot of people say that. Just bear with me there for a moment. So Tyrone Mings his numbers will be worse than Caleta-Car for that. He's miscontrols the ball 0.17 times every game, and he's dispossessed 0.08 times per game as well. They're not horrendous, but they're worse than Caleta-Car's. And a lot of people say that he has a mistake in him. That shows that those mistakes are pretty infrequent, but when they happen, they're absolutely catastrophic, as I think we will all agree. And that's for Tyrone Mings, not for Caleta-Car. Caleta-Car's mistakes are more so some tough tackling, maybe lead to disciplinary issues or maybe penalties. But we had that with Duje Carlos as well. That was a red flag or criticism that was made of Duje Carlos, and we hadn't seen an awful lot of that so far in the Premier League. So it's something that I'm willing to to brush aside for the moment. Now, moving on here, just to see how he compares with regards to the advanced defensive statistics for Caleta-Car and Diego Carlos. I haven't color-coded these because these specifically for the defensive statistics, these are so subjective with the fact that the two of them are playing in two completely different systems, and I don't like saying one is definitively better than the other person. It was specifically with a defensive statistic, because if you bring in somebody like what's his name? Ruben Diaz from Man City, you'll see he'll have low numbers of pressures, low numbers of tackles, low numbers of ball recoveries as well. But obviously, we know he's not a bad centre half. He's just protected better out front, and obviously he's playing in a different system with a better team. I think it's fair to say that Sevilla would have been better than a lot of teams that they would have faced last season, and for sure Marseille were better than a lot of teams they would have faced last season. So that has negative inferences within the defensive and advanced defensive statistics that the players would have as well. So I'm very open to the fact and knowledge, not knowledge, but what's the word I'm looking for? I'm very I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I know that they play in different systems and in different leagues, and it may have an effect on their statistical output. But with regards to passing, I think regardless of what league you're in, if you're a good passer, you're going to be a good passer, and it's going to show through. And both of these guys are good passers of the ball. Both of these guys are very good passers of the ball, and they stack up pretty similarly. So we can see there, even the long passing statistic, there isn't massive mounts in it. There's 5% better completion rate. The mid-range passing is very similar there. There's only 0.8% in the difference, and the short passing, there's 3.1% in the difference there. So we still have Diego Carlos. We're replacing a good passer of the ball in Diego Carlos with another good passer on the ball with Caleta-Car. And I think a lot of people were probably looking at Carlos going, well, we need this big brutish burly defender to replace what Carlos is going to lose, what we're going to lose in Carlos. But I think it's undersung his passing ability, and I think that's what Aston Villa will want to replace, and that's probably why they will delve into the transfer market, or why I think they will, because of the defenders that we have passing the ball, and the confidence in the ball and the ability to pass the ball at a decent clip isn't there if we need to do it. And if we wanted to change to being a possession-based team, we're going to need to have at least one centre-half that's comfortable with taking a high workload and confident with the ball. Caleta-Car could be that person, and Diego Carlos had the ability to be that person, but unfortunately he's going to be injured for minimum 6 to 8 months now. So that is very unfortunate, should I say. Cognizant was the word, Christopher. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Cognizant was the word I was looking for. Thank you so much. Let's have a little look at some of the comments here. TJ says, I think us as fans' biggest problem with our expectations is we're getting confused between how good our squad is compared to the first team. First team, 6 out of 10. Squad, 7 out of 10. Still a top half first team, though. I'd nearly even go further. I think the players that we have, I think now is the time that we need to settle on a system, and we need to play a settled system more so than anything else. So I'd nearly go so far as to say we're a 7 out of 10 in both, because we've got some really, like, you put any of our first team up for sale. And I say our first team now, I know people are going to say, well, we can't get rid of Ngazi, we can't get rid of Bertrand Traore, we can't get rid of these guys. They wouldn't be considered everyday starters. But if you were to turn around, like if you put Tyrone Mings up for sale, I guarantee you he's gone before the end of the weekend. And much and all as people say, oh, Tyrone Mings this, Tyrone Mings that. I really like Tyrone Mings, but the negative publicity around him doesn't match the quality of defender that he is. And I guarantee you, like, you put him up for sale, there's probably 5, like if you make it known that he's for sale today, there's probably 5 bids in before lunchtime. And I think that's a good example of where our squad is, because like big teams wanted Douglas Luiz, and Douglas Luiz seems to have chosen to stay with Aston Villa. There was talks that his new deal signing was going to be imminent. I still don't have any fear that he's going to sign a new deal. It just seems to be pointing that way, but there was big teams in looking for him, like AC Milan and Roma. We get excited when we're linked to players from big teams, and then when big teams come in looking for our players, maybe sometimes we overrate our players and sometimes we underrate them as well. But that's a very good point, TJ. I really agree with you on that one. That that when we take a 5,000 foot view at our team, our team hasn't gelled and potentially we aren't playing the right tactics for them. But any one of our players, you put them up for sale and you've got 5 offers before lunchtime. I guarantee I can't think of a player in our first team who wouldn't have people bursting down the door if it was made known that they were up for sale. The rest of our squad is good, but obviously we're finding it difficult to sell the likes of some other players, should I say. I don't want to be naming any of those players because it's unfair, because they may have valuable roles to play this season. Christopher Hammond says, for a Premier League campaign and a cup run, 3 centre-backs isn't enough. I wholeheartedly and 100% and absolutely agree with you on that one. Can we improve on cons at our house? If we're looking at top 10 and a cup run, we absolutely have to. And I think this guy is just different to both of those. I think it's fair to say that Courtney House brings that aerial dominance. That's his thing. He's a big, strong, strapping defender. He's good in the air. This guy brings that, but he also brings the fleet of foot that we're going to be missing in the Duje Caleta-Car as well. So I think that's why our interest is peaked with going back in for this guy, if the opportunity arises and should he be available to be sold. I've seen anywhere from that West Ham were looking to bid 8 million for him and that we were looking to build 11 million for him. But look, talk is cheap on the internet, and more than 0.5% of it is actually true. So we'll see what comes from this. But I agree with you, Christopher, that 3 centre-backs isn't enough, unfortunately, for me, specifically with Courtney House. Only coming back from injury and looking like he wants to test himself or get a good run of games to prove his fitness. AVFC Gerard says, we're not signing him. There you have it, lads. Breaking news. Definitive, absolutely definitive. We're not signing him from AVFC agent Gerard. I love you, man. I love you, and thanks a million for watching. But we can still talk about a player, even if we're not going to sign him in the next 20 minutes, half an hour. We may never sign him. We can still talk about him. Exactly. And TJ says this is where the tactics and management need to make a difference with regards to the squad. I agree with that. And I should have played that. I should have highlighted that one directly after your last comment, because I think that I was sure that's what you're getting at. That I do think that we're going to have to play to the tactics, or we're going to have to change our tactics to suit what we have. Because the transfer window shuts. If there was a transfer window open all season, well, then you could afford to be so rigid with your tactics. But let's just see what happens here, and hopefully we've turned a corner from the Everton game, but we will see more on that this week. Chad Thomas asks, Sanson going the other way. That is, you are the same Chad Thomas that used to play defensive tackle for defensive end for the Cleveland Browns, and is also a massive music producer. You aren't the same Chad Thomas by any chance, no? If you are, hit me up in the DMs, because I've got some audio issues that I need help with. I've got some questions about audio mixers. And if you are that mega DJ, Chad Thomas as well, who is actually the same person who used to play American football, that would be cool. Be cool to if that's who you were, and I'd love to chat to you. But either way, thank you so much for your comment. Sanson going the other way, or is he going to Turkey? I don't know. There was rumors of heading out to Turkey. I actually don't know what to believe. Sanson is beginning to kind of. I don't want to use he's getting on my nerves, because I think there's a way back for him into this squad and back into this team. But there's just a small little bit of that cryptic stuff that goes on social media with him recently, and I abhor that. I really dislike it, because it shows such unprofessionalism from the player. There's 11 places, like it's not like it's news to professional football players that there's 11 places on the team. There's 20 places on a match day squad, and not everybody can be selected in the match day squad. Not everybody can be selected on the team. And sometimes when you look at social media, it seems like it's just a big shocker. It's news to these players that they're not being selected. Yes, you can be frustrated, but am I kind of being a bit of a curmudgeon to think that taking to social media about stuff like that is like it's something that I don't know. I would have thought it would have died out by now, because does it really force your hand? Does it really get you a move? I don't know. But anyway, to answer your question that you have here, with regards to Sanson, very, very good skill set in what he does. I think there is a way for him to force himself back into this squad and back into this team. If an offer comes in that's consummate that's comparable, should I say, of what we are going to, what we believe he's worth, I would imagine he would be a way to recoup some money. I do actually have an interesting one. I might I might do it up and just release it later, not as a live one, just as an example. I might use him as an example about how Aston Villa could use maybe a sale of somebody like Sanson, who's got 2 years left in his contract, with regards to financial fair play. So thanks for reminding me on that, because I've been doing a piece on that for the last couple of days. So I might release something like that later on, just to explain maybe how we could use somebody like him, use him as an example of how Aston Villa could have a positive accounting rating, even though we might make, let's just say we sold him for 5 million, we would actually make money on that from an accounting point of view, even though we all as fans know that we've lost 9 million based on his purchase price. It's convoluted. Anyway, I digress. Where else are we? Where else are we in the comments? Sorry there, guys. My comments are kind of all mixed up here at the moment. I don't know what's going on here. John Bembury asks, is he any better than House? Just asking. Yes, he's an international defender and has a completely different skill set, while also being able to play in the air, and has played at a higher level throughout his career than Courtney House. So my view, yes. And everybody knows I'm the conductor on the Courtney House fan bus. But I just think that I think that with the injuries that he's had and for what he wants as a player, I would imagine he's going to need to get his career back on track, and staying fourth choice defender for Aston Villa won't be his way of doing that. So I think he's going to look to play football and try and get some games under his belt, because he's 27 years of age and time is ticking on for him now. How does he communicate on the pitch? Mings seemed to be doing better when he had Chambers, Chambinho talking next to him. I'm going to be really honest, Damien. I don't know. It's not something I could pick. It's not something I picked up on. I suppose again, I don't know. I would have to go back and watch. It's not something that bounced off the page to me, but or off the tape to me, should I say? But it wasn't taking it into account. So great question, though. Absolutely great question, and you've got me thinking now. But that is a really good point, though. The Paddy has made that point a couple of times in the podcast. The Chambers talks almost more, if not as much, if not almost more, than Tyrone Mings when he's on the field. Although Mings is the organizer, or was the organizer last season, the Chambers was keeping him honest, and that's something that Konza has been trying to learn to do, is to be more vocal on the field. And you see he's more vocal when he's talking to players as it is, but we do need two communicators back there. But that's a really interesting one. Yeah, you've got me thinking now. Yeah, as Standing on the Word says, like button if you guys like this. If you like the content that we put out, give us a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much, everybody. There's over 50 people watching, 20 to 12 on a Friday. So thanks a million for watching, guys. John Branbury asked, just wonder what Sanson has told him. I would say Sanson has told him maybe something different than Boubacar Kamara has told him. So we've got if he wants to do his due diligence, he probably has glowing reference from Boubacar Kamara. And to be honest with you, I genuinely find it difficult to feel sorry for Sanson other than the fact that he was injured. If you're injured and you're getting usurped in the team and people are playing better than you, then it's up to you to kind of to play better in training. Now, obviously, I'm not there in training or whatever, but I don't think that there's any vendetta against Sanson. I just think that Sanson is somebody who wants to play football and absolutely 100% should play football. And I hope he gets a chance with Aston Villa. But as I say, I'm not here to look at Instagram, or I'm not here to look at Twitter for him to be talking about how aggrieved he is via those channels, when it just comes across as being unprofessional to me. So once again, I could be picking up the wrong end of the stick, but I think that's more a commentary on professional footballers themselves taking to social media, regardless of who it is. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of that. And as we all go back, we've seen some calamitous things that have happened at Aston Villa, specifically about putting up supercars in your back pocket after a massive loss against Liverpool. Mr. Lescott. Where else are we? Yeah, Keith says we need a centre back that excels in the air and is a goal threat in the opposite box. Caleta-Car, 73.3% aerial duel success. That number has changed. If you watch my previous video, that number was lower. It was 64%. It has changed, and they actually I had two screenshots, one of from the start of the week and one from now. So it's just they do say on the website that the numbers will update at different times. So that is an interesting one that has gone up 73.3%, which puts him in the top 92 percentile of people in the air in Europe, which is great. Absolutely fantastic. John Bambury asks, is that Eric Boy? Is that the guy Eric Boy from Manchester United that you're saying here? So John Bambury says the boy keeps getting mentioned in the gossip. Is he better? I haven't even seen that. I haven't seen it mentioned at all. I know that the wonderful James Rushton, who's got, guys, if you weren't reading James Rushton's newsletter, it almost comes out daily. He, as you guys know, he's kind of moved on. He's not really writing about Aston Villa, his professional role as much anymore, but he does have a newsletter. I don't have a link for it now, but I have been talking to him about coming on to promote his newsletter because it's absolutely great. If you guys liked his op-ed pieces and his stuff that he's done previously with any of his writing, you should go and check it out because I think that he's got some very good thought processes and talking points in regards to Aston Villa. So if you find it on his Twitter page at Jim or Rushton, I think Rushton is where it is, but you should be on it. I think it's really good, and it comes to you via email every day. You don't even have to load anything up, so it comes directly to your email address, which is fantastic. But I know that he mentioned Eric Boy as a potential option, but I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else, and I haven't actually looked at him. I haven't looked at him at all, Eric Boy, as a potential option, but he does have the experience for sure. Right, I think that's going to do it for us, lads. I think that's going to do it for us. If you guys haven't hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it if you do. Thanks a million for joining me, as I say, and I know 4 people have just joined there a second ago. Apologies, the stream is just coming to an end. You can go back and you can watch it again anyway, but there are some really good and promising things from Caleta-Car. As I say, he is somebody who's good in the air and he's really, really good with the ball on the ground as regards his composure and his passing ability. So I think that's something different than we have already. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow with a team sheet tantrum, 10 minutes to 2. We will be on GMT. I'm hoping you guys will join me. I want all your comments. I'm going to be doing it solo tomorrow. The wonderful Paddy is on holidays, but I will be doing it solo, and I want all your comments. And who knows, maybe we will have some more news about incomings, outgoings, or whatever we'll be able to discuss in that. So I'll see you back here again tomorrow, 10 minutes to 2 GMT for the team sheet tantrum for Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. Stay safe, stay well, and until then, all that's left to say is up the Villa.